Welcome to this new series on surface development in engineering drawing. In engineering and manufacturing, many objects that we use every day are made from flat sheets of materials such as metals, plastics, or even cardboard. But before these materials can be cut, bent, and then formed into their final shape that we can hold, we need to understand how their surfaces can be accurately represented on a flat plane. This process is what we call surface development. So it is basically the technique of unfolding the surface of a three-dimensional object and then lay it flat so that we can see it on a two-dimensional plane. In this playlist, we will learn how to develop different geometric solids including prisms, pyramids, cylinders, and then cones. We will also study how to develop the truncated and section solids where parts of the objects are removed by cutting planes. But before we develop anything, let us look at some reference systems and then some important terminologies that we must understand. The first one is the horizontal plane. So this is basically the floor where we can see the plan view or the top of the object from. So that is called the horizontal plane. So the objects shown, for instance, are objects that are 3D. That means they have different views. But from the top, what can we see? So that is the horizontal plane or the top view of the object. Then we have the vertical plane. So this is basically where we see the front view from. So it's just like a wall that we can paste the front view on. So that is the vertical plane, which is actually 90 degrees to the horizontal plane. Then we also have the true shape. So sometimes when we cut an object, depending on the view, the shape might look deformed compared to its original shape. Then we have the development. That is the 2D flat pattern we get after we unfold the 3D object. Then when we start developing truncated objects, we'll see something like edge cut and vertex cut. So it depends on where the cutting plane goes through the object. Some objects are cut from one end, other objects can be cut from a certain vertex. So we need to understand what those also are. So let's look at how to develop some of these objects in the coming videos.